Hey,
Hey guys.
how's everyone doing today?
Good.
I'm
Are you
good.
Jason's got quite the festive looking background.
I do, yes. I am in the season.
All
Hey, my
right.
outfit is festive. No, not really.
That's your idea of festive, John.
It's John festive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Christmas trees look cool. Next
Thank
week,
you.
I promise to have some cool Christmas stuff going
All right. Looking forward to it. Very good.
because tis
Well,
the
yes.
season.
Tis the season. Yes, we are live in the season of Christmas right now.
Awesome.
How
We'll
are
wait
you
just
guys
a little
doing?
bit for people to get online, and we'll
Make sure
shoot
that
the
we
breeze for a minute more.
talk about Christmas.
I hope you
and
guys don't hear all the
ratings.
lawnmowers because they are like
Nope.
so loud to me right now.
Well, you know what? You're in this cool little room and we can't hear anything because you've got that nice brick room behind you. Oh,
Yeah.
you're not actually in that room?
Yeah, it's totally isolated.
That's not actually my room. I'll show you what's actually behind me. Is how do I make
Not-
it? This is what's actually behind me.
Oh, okay. Well, that was
This is
dangerous.
what I
That,
choose to
that
use.
scared me for a
Oh, well,
second.
hey, that's green. That's sort of festive.
Yeah,
Cool.
I've been having fun with the background, so I have my green screen behind me.
Love it.
But I have the leaf blowers and everybody doing all the
We don't hear it. You have good
Being
noise.
here,
reduction.
sound great.
yeah. Hooray for StreamYard and their noise gates.
I know. Well,
Super helpful.
let's kick it off.
Awesome.
Get
Go for
going.
it,
I think we
Jason.
should have a bit of an audience.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody out there. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to introduce us and we'll get going. My name is Jason Fernandez. I am the live sound training manager here at QSC. Joining me, as always, is Golden Preciado. She's a front of house and recording professional mix engineer, as well as our House of Worship's consultant here at QSC. And we also have John Graves. John is our resident product manager for the TouchMix series of mixing consoles. He's also a professional front of house mixing engineer. Got quite the background on him, and we're very happy for him to join us again for what is this, the third one?
Third, fourth, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys let me keep coming back. That's very
Absolutely.
nice.
It's
Come back
becoming a
along
thing.
board.
That's cool.
I know. This is going to be the John, Golden, and Jason show here.
Yeah.
Well, the upside is between the three of us, we know a little bit about what we're talking about here. So
Slightly. I think, yeah. Now that we have three, I think we can come together and at least convey half of
No,
them
you didn't need
somewhere.
me. You guys were fine on your own. All right. So what are we talking about today, Jason?
So today we're talking about monitors. This can be a little bit of a vast topic. So we're kind of break this sort of in half, or we're going to just kind of get into the introduction of monitors today, go discuss what a monitor actually is and what its purpose is, and then talk a little bit about how to set them up and then how to configure them within a mixer and how to work with a performer to get that going. So I think to kind of help us illustrate what a monitor is, we do have a couple of images that we can display. There we go. Yeah. So,
all right, so there's your classic club lead singer. It's dirty.
that's it. Yep.
Speakers are beat up. That's a monitor rig. That makes me happy to see that.
It's a rock show. I feel like I just want to step up to that mic and start wailing.
Yep. Well, not me.
So yeah, who wants to go answer the question? What is a monitor?
All right.
I'll
Well,
go.
so look, at the end of the day, when you're on stage, what some people don't really realize is you can't hear everything the way everybody hears it out front.
That's
So
right.
the monitors or fold back system is the way that you're able to hear yourself, the performer, to hear yourself on stage. And it becomes very challenging. There's a couple of things that make it both really cool and challenging. One of the things that makes it cool is the more sophisticated you get, the more each performer can basically have their own blend, their own mix on stage, right? And we call it a mix. And you can change the blend. So they can say, as we like to say out in the touring world, like everybody is more me, right? So I want more me than everybody else.
Got to hear myself.
Right.
All of me.
That's exactly right. So you get the more me mixes, and then sometimes you get the guys that don't want to hear hardly any of them. They want to hear somebody else. But with individual mixes for each performer, you get that. So that's one of the cool positive things that we're going to talk about on monitors. But one of the things that I really want to point out, which is why this is a two-part thing, why we did some of the things in TouchMix that we did, is because inherently monitors are a bad idea. You are putting a speaker and a microphone aimed at the speaker. So what we've taught everybody for all history of audio, don't put the microphone in front of the speaker. The first thing we do in monitors is put the microphone in front of the speaker. So that's why.
Now I have to say, mixing every day for all various bands and groups, and being a musician myself, what we're about to talk about is probably one of the most important things for a musician to get their greatest and best performance.
Yes.
And being the monitor person, it's a tough position because you're dealing with personalities, and you'll never hear the word please or hear the word thank you, but you will get a sigh of relief when the musician has hit the sweet spot with their monitors.
Well, I will tell you, so in my career, I've been a front of house engineer for most of my career, and monitor guys and front of house guys are both friendly and adversarial at the same time when you're on tour. The front of house guy is telling the monitor guy to turn the monitors down because those monitors are getting into my mix, right? And then of course, as soon as anything feeds back, the monitor guy points at the front of house guy and says, "That's your fault." And the front of house guy points at the monitor guy and says, "That's your fault."
No, it's you. Oh, that's not me. It's you.
But at the end of the day, it's also it's an important part of, as you said, getting a performance, getting the performance from the artist. But one of the things that we'll touch on here, and one of the things that's very important, is if you do not have a proper monitor mix, no matter how good anybody is playing, no matter how good they are singing or playing, or how wonderful the blend on stage is, if the monitors are not doing what they should do in that environment, which is a really key thing, it can ruin the show for the audience.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
It may not ruin the show for the artist because they're all about their monitor, but I said this before. If all you care about is what you sound like to you, then go ahead and stay home.
Yeah, you're not there for you. You're there for the audience.
You're there for the audience. So that's why we want to talk about so many things.
Exactly. We have a lot to talk about, but there's a blend essentially. There's a balance that needs to be found as best as possible so that the artist can properly reference, themselves as well as the other elements of the ensemble that they need to hear, to be able to hear, as well as, what the audience is hearing, and there's two distinctly different things that should not overlap. And if you get it right, everybody wins and everybody's happy, but getting it right can be challenging. There's also, John, you were talking about, in a situation where you have a dedicated front of house guy and a dedicated monitor guy. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's the same guy. Sometimes it's actually the musician themselves that's mixing their monitors. Sometimes it's even the musician that's doing everything. You might be having to deal with front of house and your monitor mixes for your band
very often
on stage. And we're going to kind of get into a little bit of all of that here. But before we do, the first thing I do want to emphasize is that when it comes to monitors, just the intrinsic monitor, the loudspeakers on stage that every musician has to reference, it is very important that each musician gets their own, whether that be a dedicated floor monitor that is just for themselves, or maybe they have an in-ear set that they can run off a wireless pack or connect into the mixer. When you get into a situation where more than one musician is referencing off of the same monitor, those two musicians or more are need to hear different things. They need to hear themselves at a certain level, and that they might have different elements that they need within the ensemble to reference from. And you're never going to get that right for both players if they're, or more players if they're, both listening to one monitor. And so you're going to keep getting this. Everyone's like, no, I need more of this. I need more of this. And the whole mix gets louder. Sometimes the entire monitor just gets pushed through the roof. And then you've got all kinds of problems.
For the inexperienced listener and musician, there's this idea that if you have fewer speakers on stage, that it's going to make less noise, but that's not exactly the case.
No.
The real deal is if each person has their own mix and they're referencing only what they need to, then it actually lowers your stage volume, which makes your house mix sound even better.
There you go.
Yep.
So step one, have the appropriate amount of monitors.
Buy more gear. Step one, buy more gear.
Buy more gear.
Well, which I have to say, on a TouchMix with so many outputs, it is so easy to get as many monitor mixes out there as you want. I'm totally excited for you to get your TouchMix up, Jason.
So let's talk about that. Let's start there. Yeah. Let's take a look at the outputs on my mixer here, and we can show you what we're doing. So here, this is the back of my TouchMix 30. And as you can see on the 30, so up here are all of my inputs. So that's my channel inputs there. And then this section down here, these are the aux outputs. And these are what are going to be connecting to your stage monitors. And you can see on the TouchMix 30 here, we've got 14 of these. There are 14 dedicated auxiliary outputs.
Which is amazing, a lot for how compact the mixer is.
Yeah, the amount of inputs and outputs on this board are staggering. So essentially you can connect up to 14 stage monitors if you needed to. That is a huge ensemble. I don't know why you need to do that, but if you needed to,
hey, ask Golden. She does some big band things and some orchestral things where you can run into that.
Yeah,
but awesome. I would like to say a plug for how much thought we put into this in the entire TouchMix line. So even the little TouchMix 8 has 4 outputs. Right?
Yeah.
So we and the TouchMix 16 is 12 outputs. So we worked very hard to make sure that no matter which compact mixer you got the most potential for monitors for your performance, because that's really what we're trying to make it's what we're trying to make TouchMixes for, is a great performance. So we do have a lot of auxes on these, and we have a lot of features that we'll get into as we go. Because of just exactly what Golden said. You know what? If you have the potential, it's great to have. If you've got just a small 4-piece band and you can put 4 wedges up there, and you can actually have 4 individual mixes, that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that just, it makes, in line with what we've been saying, that makes everything better. That makes the stage environment for the performers better, which will in turn put on a better show for the audience. So there you go. So here's our auxes. This is what we're going to connect out to. And then once we've got them connected, we're going to go ahead and set them up. So each individual output has its own dedicated mix. And my camera got all
Fred Harding, hello from Rock, Wisconsin. Awesome.
Hey, there we go.
Jackson and Alberto Colon from Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you for joining us. Romero Libo. That was nice.
Wow.
He said, hi, JJ and G. See, we have a new name. We have a new brand right
here.
I
like JJ and G. The dynamic trio.
Yeah. We have, joining from South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa.
Romeo.
Welcome.
Awesome.
And thank you. Hopefully this is useful. So where are we? So we've connected our hypothetical monitors to the mixer on the back. Now we're looking at the screen here. What's shown right now is the main mix. So this is my fader mix, which will control the main outputs. It's going to go to the main forward-facing PA. All these buttons down the side of my screen here are going to allow me to access all of my individual monitor mixes. So you can see I've got one
beautiful formatting. All the outputs are on the left side. It's just awesome formatting, right?
And this will always be here. So anytime you need to access any of your monitor mixes, it's all right here. We can also label these, so you can tell which performer's mix you need to get into. And it's simple as just touching the button there, and now we're looking at the fader mix for, in my case, aux 1. So whatever.
Right,
go ahead.
I want to back up a little bit here. Let's go back to the main mix. Go back to the main mix.
Yep.
And let's talk about this. So I am the person that is saying, okay, I am just starting my band and putting this together. So I put my 2 or 3 instruments in and by the way, this applies to TouchMix 8, 16, and 30. All these functions and all these are all the same, which Golden, I know, likes that we have consistency in format.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I think I'm going to kind of go back to where we started with mixers, and where we started is kind of where I can go, because I started so long ago. There was not necessarily a way to mix from faders on a mixer back when we first started doing this.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's important, and I think it's a good way to get your arms around or your head around what it is that you're trying to do. So if you are on a channel, right, on a TouchMix, and you select a strip, you will see you have EQ, right? You have the overview, you have the EQ, you have the compressor, you have the gate, you have all that stuff. And then you have the button that says auxes. And this is like on other mixers, analog mixers, all that. You have the ability now to send that, whatever instrument that is, to whatever mix you want.
All those
and that is a really good mind connection before we get to the stuff on the left, Jason.
Okay. I like that.
Once we start getting more cool and complex with the fader mixes, you really need to be able to make your connection. Like, so this is my kick drum, and I want my kick drum to go into the house. Of course, here it is. But then I want the kick drum to only go to my drummer's monitor, because the guy singing does not want to hear your damn kick drum, right?
I do not.
So you can make that mind connection when you go to the channel and say, hey, my drum mix is mix 1, and you turn it up, and that's where it goes. So it's all connected to that. And I suggest that we teach people to think about it starting there, with you sending the channel to wherever monitor mix you want that way. Once we get that sorted out and we understand, then we can back out of it and say, now, and because I know Golden likes this also, because she does, Golden mixes mains and front of house, mains and monitors, and a broadcast mix, but that makes her Superwoman, and we'll talk about that later. But she likes the fact that she can flip from the main mix to any monitor and just quickly send things. But she is also a dedicated engineer. So sometimes sometimes if you are the performer and you are controlling your own mains and monitors, right? As you said, that happens. It is a little more comfortable in some ways to send it from the channel, so you don't get confused. Once you get used to it, it's way faster and way more functional to use the faders. But I just want to, since we're talking about monitors 101 here, I just wanted to make this point that this is a good way to start, a good way, even though we gave you all these ways to access it. Let's start with the channel.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Well, it's especially when I have time to actually sit there and mix people's monitors. When I have time, mixing from the channel is the best way to do it. And a lot of times I'll have somebody be playing, they'll have their finger up in the air like this, and we'll just go around the circle and I'll point. And when they've had enough, they'll just put their finger down. And it's really easy to, from the channel, just go
from the channel,
my aux sends and drop them right where they need to be.
And one cool thing to kind of highlight just a really nice feature that the TouchMix has for this method. You know, if you're just kind of going into your channels and then bringing up that channel within all the aux mixes that require it, like we can start with our input 1 here. We can pretend this is kick drum. We can start with that. Say, hey, who wants kick drum? The drummer? Nobody else? Great. And then we can just move right along, but with the next button, and we can scrub through all of our inputs, and it stays on this page.
Yes.
You notice that? So now I'm in input 2, and it kept me on the aux page. So I can very quickly go through all of my inputs and just drag up everything that needs it based on what my performers are telling me.
So let's do this for me for a second, because I want to show something. So you're on channel 2, which would be your snare drum, right? So give me a little bit of snare drum in your drum mix, because we're going to pretend aux 1 is the drum mix, right?
Great.
So give me a little bit of that.
Okay.
Let's move to the next channel, move to 3. Give me a bunch of hi-hat, because you're a crazy drummer and you want tons of hi-hat to know what your time is. Okay.
That's ridiculous.
And then move just one more, and we'll go to your rack tom, right? And so we've given us that. All right. So now give me a little bit of that.
A little rack tom in there.
Okay. Now escape out of this and let's look at the main mix, right?
Okay.
So nothing's happened on the main mix. Now touch the button where we show how the faders work on aux 1.
You can
Look
see
at
where
that.
they've already been set.
So now this is a great way to get your arms
That's a good
around,
demo.
right? Like, oh, okay, I did all this. Well, now that I see this, maybe I'll go make small adjustments from my faders, right? So it's just a really excellent way for people to kind of figure out what's what, because mixing auxes on faders, which is a big boy feature, doesn't always apply to everybody. But if we can introduce you to it, you might say, wow,
if you can make the association between the two methods and what's actually happening. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, excellent. Cool. That is, I mean, that is almost.
I just want to mention
Monitor
something
101
else
right
that the TouchMix has before we move to. Do you the aux matrix, or that shows all the overview, aux overview.
There we go. I'm gonna have to.
This is
gonna take a minute because I haven't opened this since I've had the mixer
It takes a second to populate
there you go.
when you first turn it on, but this shows you an overview of all your auxes with each bank of channel inputs. And this has proven to me to be so fast, especially when I'm dialing a bunch of in-ears.
It warms my heart that you love that feature, because
I do.
It speaks to what I said earlier. We cared very much about when we designed touch mixes that monitors are a big important part of the thing. It's not just mains, right? It's monitors.
Yeah.
And you can get so lost, especially by the time you get to a TouchMix 30.
Yeah.
Right? You can get so lost on what's going where. Oh my God. Well, how about this? How about the bass player is hearing something in his monitor that he does not want? Like, get the keyboards out of my, and you're like, I don't think I'm sending. The best way to be able to find that out
is in the overview.
And you go, oh, look at that. It is
everything. Yeah.
I remember, I think I was mixing with you, John, at a gig, and something was getting sent to the subs. And you're like, what is that? The broadcast mix or something was getting sent through the subs.
The broadcast mixer was sending to the subs.
And the way he figured it out was by opening up the overview, and in a second we found out what was feeding the subs. It shouldn't.
You find whatever aux output you're working with, and you can see all the way across all the inputs.
So three fantastic ways to
take it out.
At dialing in monitors.
And a cool way, we're speaking of this particular instance where there's something that's present that shouldn't be, another thing that TouchMix does that makes it very quick to get that out of there is that once you find it, you select it and you can zero it out.
And you hit the zero button and make it go away.
And it's gone.
Now I'm going to suggest, when you're using this on an iPad, the screen that on the TouchMix looks exactly the same as the iPad, which is awesome. But awesome. I'm going to suggest, rather than using your fingers, that you use the up and down arrows to move the slider.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it is quite easy to all of a sudden choose the wrong slider just because it's stuck together.
We're very careful about how we laid things out, but you can't get away from the fat finger problem when you're trying to put a bunch of stuff on a screen.
There's only so much room on the screen.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
But the up and down arrows on the iPad are gold.
So, all right. So what we've talked about here is, this is where I hook my monitor up, and this is how I send information to that monitor, and that's 0.5, right? That's monitor 0.5.
That's it.
Then we show now there is the master output besides the individual send, and we would suggest, as we defaulted the auxes to nominal output. So if you go all the way over to the aux main outputs,
here.
So those are all defaulted, right?
Yeah.
To that. So no matter what you push up, it goes. But keep in mind, I may like the blend that I have here, and I might want to just turn it down or turn it up.
The whole thing down. Sure.
Then you can turn the aux up and down. So now we're starting to talk about, all right, well, now I've got the input, now my output. The next thing that's really important, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this on our next.
We're about to reach the split here.
Right, but now we say, all right, well, now that I have my input signal going to my monitor, and I have the level so that I can control it, individual and the mix level, right? It's the whole thing. So that now I'm pretty smart when it comes to that. But now we start to get into the next thing that I talked about at the beginning, which is let me get this straight. You're going to put a bunch of microphones in front of the speakers, right? So we've done a lot of good work. QSC's done a lot of good work with tools to help you with that. There are EQs. There's a graphic EQ. There's a parametric EQ, and then there's the anti-feedback wizard, which we're going to hopefully show everybody how it works.
I'm going to demo this next week.
It's spectacular, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
In that, not that I wrote the code to make it work, but at the end of the day, we wanted it to work a certain way so that even a professional would go, "Oh, damn, I'll use that," right? So. So that was an important part. So those tools exist that we haven't gotten to. There's a limiter here on the outputs that we haven't gotten to, because the other thing about monitors is they're not always wedges on the ground. Sometimes they're in-ears, and there's some things that you want to do with in-ears. You want to put limiters on them and do some stuff. Right. So we have a bunch of processing that we're going to talk about. Hopefully we'll get it all into one, but there's a lot of that stuff. And then there is something even more special, and the most special thing is if you have the opportunity to use QSC speakers, right, CPs and K.2s, we did a bunch of work to give you a preset for a floor monitor. Now, a floor monitor preset makes you say, what? But when you take a speaker off a pole and you throw it on the ground and then you stick a microphone in front of it, there's some things that we want to get rid of, right? So we did that we gave you those presets in the CP and in the K, but also, as you're showing here, in the mixer, we put them in the mixer. So let me be very clear. These are the EQ presets that we made for the Ks. So if you had a K.2, a K10 or K8 or a K12, and you said, I want the monitor position, you could select the monitor position and leave the speaker in its normal setting, and this would put the preset in it. It doesn't change the preset in the speaker. It puts the EQ in front of the speaker, right? Right.
So in other words, use one or the other.
One or the other. Right. Yeah.
Because as my mentor told me, putting stage monitor 1 on the mixer and stage monitor 1 on the speaker does not make it twice as good. So
not quite.
So it's an amazing tool. More tools that we have, and I will say this: you can actually use these on other manufacturers' speakers. I don't know why anybody would use another manufacturer's speaker.
I can't fathom.
That's not true. I get it. So. There, for instance, somebody else's 10, 12, or 8 of a similar kind, you may find a starting advantage by using these. And we did that on purpose because we are always about getting results, right?
John, I do that actually. If I walk into a situation on somebody else's system, I will drop in the presets for the monitors, the K monitors. And it just gives me a great starting point.
It gives you a lot more stability in the monitor itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these are some tools, and we'll get way more into that.
So this is as far as we can get this one. What we did, I'm proud of us for getting this far, honestly. So next week we're gonna take the backside of this, the more advanced aux lessons. We're gonna talk more about the processing on the output here. We'll talk a little bit about effects in the monitors, how to get them there, and a few words of caution when it comes to that. As well as just the feedback tool and some helpful hints that might further help you alleviate feedback when it comes to monitors, as well as keeping your overall stage volume as low as possible without interfering with your main PA.
Right.
Awesome.
All right, we did good, right?
We did it. This was awesome, guys.
Excellent.
We got through it.
Well, really quick, let me run through our Facebook groups that we have. We have a Facebook group hosted by QSC and myself. It's called Church Sound Training, and it was actually created for church sound people and their volunteers, but the audio concepts that are taught are universal and applicable across the board. Oh, I also wanted to mention our TouchMix group that we have. And everything you wanted to know about TouchMix, you'll find there in the group. And I love it because people share their solutions in there. They share things they've been trying to figure out, and there's always somebody to answer from another user on how they solve the problem. So super useful group. Also, this Saturday, December 4th, I'll be presenting at a virtual conference organized by soundgirls.org. I'm teaching on broadcast mixing for live streaming, which I know, especially in the House of Worship world, boy, when the pandemic came and we couldn't get together, churches were thrust into this, and then musicians who couldn't play anymore were thrust into having to use this. And there's so much to learn about mixing for live streaming. So if you want to learn more, you can register for that conference at soundgirls.org. My presentation is Saturday at 11 Pacific Standard Time. And Brad, our moderator, will post that in the comments. It's been fun, you guys.
Yeah.
I love just talking tech.
I know.
We call it Tech Talk.
Hey.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Golden Preciado, along with Jason Fernandez and John Graves. From all of us here at QSC, strive for excellence, never stop learning, and be the best that you can be. And we'll see you on the next QSC